Are you ready to take your automation game to the next level? In this video, we'll be showing you how to connect UiPath with the power of OpenAI's ChatGPT using the API. Imagine being able to add natural language processing capabilities to your robots, allowing them to understand and respond to human input. This opens up a whole new realm of possibilities for automating customer service, data entry, and more. So, whether you're a developer, a business owner, or just interested in the latest tech trends, join us as we explore how to connect UiPath with ChatGPT and see the future of automation for yourself. Let's start. Before diving into the implementation of the process in UiPath, let's first ensure we have everything we need to successfully connect UiPath with ChatGPT. To use an API in UiPath, we will need the HTTP request activity. If it's not already present in your project, don't worry, I will walk you through how to import the necessary package in just a moment. That's all we will need on the UiPath side of things. On the other hand, we will need an API key to connect with ChatGPT, which I will also show you how to generate. Please make sure you have an account. If you don't have an account, please create a new one. It's for free. Once we have both the HTTP request activity and the API key, we will be all set to begin. And, I will also guide you on how to use this connection to build a small workflow, which you can use to send questions from UiPath and receive answers from ChatGPT. Now, let's get started by adding the HTTP request activity to our UiPath project. I have a new project in UiPath. First I will navigate to Manage Packages. Then I will navigate to All Packages, where I can search for packages. I will write the package name here. Here is the package, what I need to install. I will install it. Click on Save. The package will be installed in my project. It's done. Let's search for the activity, HTTP request. As you see, I can find the activity now in UiPath. So, it's imported successfully. I can use this activity later to connect with ChatGPT. This is the first step we have to do. Let's move on to the next step, generate an API key. For that I will open the browser to this URL. Now I am on the main page. I will click on API. Here I can find some documentation for the API. To generate an API key or to do anything here, I have to sign in. I already have an account. If you don't have an account, you can create a new one using this button. I will sign in using my account. Now I am on the main page. I want to see the API documentation, therefore I will click here on Documentation. On the left side you can find the API documentation. Let's click on Introduction. Here you can find everything about the API, like the commands, the parameters, examples for some requests, and also the responses. I will talk in detail about that later. For now I want to generate an API key. To do that I will click on API keys here. I already have an API key, but I can also generate new keys. For that I will click on Create New Secret Key. The key is generated. I will copy it and save it somewhere, because I need it later in UiPath. Please make sure you don't share your API key with anyone. I will delete this key later after creating this video. I will save the API key as annotation in the process, so that I can get it directly in the process, once I need it. Before start learning how to use the API in UiPath, let me explain some important points you have to know before start using the API. To use ChatGPT API we have the following three options. In this video I will show you only the third option, that we can use without need to install any external packages or using any other libraries. CURL stands for Client for URLs. It is a command line tool that allows you to transfer data using various network protocols, such as HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, and others. It is often used to make HTTP requests and test RESTful APIs, but it can also be used to send emails, upload and download files, and perform many other types of network operations. To send an HTTP request we use flags, for example the following request in CURL. I have the following flags inside the request. Let's understand what do these flags mean, and which flags do we have in CURL. I will show you the most important flags, what we will use in this video. The first one is X. It stands for request. It specifies the HTTP method to use in the request, for example get, post, put, delete, etc. The next one is H and stands for header. It specifies a custom HTTP header to include in the request. The next one is D and stands for data. It specifies data to be sent in the body of the request, typically for post or put requests. These are the most used flags, but we also have some flags like I, which stands for include, U for user, L for location, F for form, B for cookie, O for output, and so on. We have many different flags, which can be used in CURL. After the flags we have information. For example, after flag X we have the value post. This is the operation we should use for this request. After each header we have two parts. The first one is always the name of the parameter, for example, authorization, or content type. The second one is the value for this parameter. For example, for content type we have the value, application JSON. For the flag D we have a value of type JSON. This JSON string contains different key value pairs, where I can define the data I want to enter in the body of the request. In this way we can read the information from this request. In the first line we also have an URL, which represents the endpoint for this request. Later in this video, I will show you how to set the information of this request in UiPath. But before that, let me do a small recap about API. What does it mean and how it works? API, or Application Programming Interface, is an interface for data exchange. It will be used to transfer data from a system to another, or between client and server. In this video the API I want to use will be between two systems, UiPath and ChatGPT. Assume I want to get the answer for the following question: what is the capital of India? I have the question in UiPath and want to get the answer from ChatGPT. To do that I can use the ChatGPT API. How does this work? First I need to send the question from UiPath to ChatGPT. I can do that using an HTTP request. An HTTP request consists of two parts, header and body. The header consists also of two parts, endpoint and operation. The endpoint is a specific URL or network address that represents a specific resource or set of resources. For example, the following endpoint. And the operation could be one of the following 9 operations. Depending on what we want to do using the API, we have to use an operation. In my example, I want to send a question and get an answer. For that I can use the operation post. The second part is the body, which is also called as parameters. It contains the information we want to send from UiPath to ChatGPT. In this example, the body will contain the question. This is the HTTP request, which we send from UiPath to ChatGPT. ChatGPT receives the request, searches for an answer for the request, and sends back the answer. It will be sent in form of HTTP response. The response consists also of two parts, status and body. The status indicates whether the request has been successfully completed. If the request is performed successfully, we get the status 200. The body contains the information we got from ChatGPT. In this example we get New Delhi in the body. So, New Delhi is the capital of India. This is how does an API work. If you want to learn more about API in general, and how to use in UiPath, please check the following video. I explained API in detail there. It's very interesting video, what I recommend you to watch, in case you want to work with API in UiPath. So, now we know what does API mean, how it works, and we also have everything we need to start the implementation in UiPath. In summary, we have to set an HTTP request in UiPath. To do that, we need to know the following information: endpoint, operation, and body. And we should get the answer from ChatGPT in form of HTTP response. The response could be of type XML or JSON. Let's now switch to UiPath to write the request. For that I will use the following activity, what I imported at the start of this video. Let's first check where we can enter the different information here. The endpoint can be entered in this field. The request method or operation can be selected here. We have the following methods inside this activity. In this drop-down list we can define in which type we want to get the response. For that we have the following options. I will use JSON in this video, what I also recommend you to use in general. In the next section we can set the different parameters. For example, the headers of the request. The last thing we also need to set is the authentication. For that we have the following options. That's everything we have to enter inside this activity. We still need to enter the body of the request. For that we can use the property body on the right side. Here we can either set the value directly, or we can use a variable where we have the body data. That's all about this activity, if you want to enter the data step by step. But we also can do that more easily using the import button here. As you see, we can enter the request in form of CURL code. This means, I can enter the code directly here, and all information will be entered inside the activity. This is easier to use, and this is the way I will use to set the HTTP request in this video. Let's now switch to the API documentation to check which request do we need to set in UiPath. I am here under API reference. Let's navigate to completions, which I will use as request in UiPath. Here you can find all what you need to set the request. For example, an explanation for the request, for what can we use it. After that you can find the different parts you need for the request. For example, the method post should be used here. And this is the endpoint you need for the request. Under the request body you can find all parameters you can use inside the request. For example, the first one is called model. It's a required parameter, what you have to add always in the request. And it's of type string. The next one is prompt. It's of type string or array. It's optional, which means that we can use it, but we don't have to do that. So, it's not required. If we don't use it, the default value for it is the following. And so on. You can find all parameters we can use for the request. And also the type for each one and if it's required or not. There is also an explanation for each parameter, for what it can be used. For example, model parameter is to define, which model do we want to use. If you don't know which models there are and what does each one mean, you can check them here. There are 3 main models, what we have here. For each one there is an explanation what does it mean. We will use the model GPT-3. For this model there are 4 different models, which can be used for the request. Here you can also find some information about each model. Please take your time to check all models, so that you understand which models are there and for what can they be used. Let's go back to completions page. Here on the right side there is an example request. Here is the model used in the example. You can also select another model from the list. This example is using CURL. But you can also use another library if you need that. For us in this video I will use CURL. Let's copy this example and import it in UiPath. For that I will click on Import button. Then I will add the example request. I can also validate the request to check if it's successful. As you see, it's successful. And import. Now we can see that we have all information from the imported request. Here is the endpoint. The method is also selected. The response format must be selected manually. I will use JSON as response format. And here the parameters. For example, we have the content type. It's a header. And it has the following value. The next one is authorization. It's also a header. And it has this value. Here we have a placeholder for the API key. So, we have to replace this text with the API key, what we generated before. And here is the authentication type. For that we have again a placeholder for the API key. So, we also have to replace this text with the API key. Let's copy the API key and add it inside the request. I will add the key instead of this text. Please don't remove the word bearer, because this is a bearer token. And here I will add the key. Now we have everything we need inside the request. It's ready now. But we still need to set the body of the request. This can be done using the property body, what I showed you before. For the body I will use something similar to the example on the API page. As you see, we have a JSON format here. There are some parameters defined, what we also can use in the same way. As already mentioned, only the model parameter is required. So, we only need to add the model. But I want to send a question using the API, therefore I will also use the parameter prompt, that can be used to send the questions. I can use the other parameters, if I wanted to find something else, but for now I will only use these two parameters. For that I will first change the value here from XML to JSON, because I will use a JSON format. Then I will create a new variable. I will use the following name for example. This variable should be of type JSON object, which is not a standard type, therefore I have to search for it in this way. I will select this type. It's JSON object. Now I have the variable. After that I have to declare this variable as following, so that I can use it to store the parameters. JSON structure consists of keys and values. The keys in my example are the parameter names. For each parameter there is a value, that should be entered as value in this variable. To add key-value pairs I will use an assign activity. On the left side I will add the key in this way. So now I added the key model. On the right side I will add the value for it. I will use this model for example. I will copy this activity to add the second parameter. I will add the key name here. It's prompt. And the value here. The value should be the question, what I want to send using the API. So, I will write the question here, what is the capital of India? Now I have all parameters I need in the JSON variable. I can use this variable for the body. Let's add it in the body property in this way. It's of type JSON object, therefore I have to use the following expression. In this way I am converting the JSON object to string, because body property accepts only string type. At this point everything we need for the HTTP request is ready. I still need to define variable for the response. For that I will create a variable here for the content, which contains the answer from ChatGPT. I will also create a variable for the status. So, here I have the variable content of type string, that contains the answer. And the variable status of type integer, that contains the status code. Let's add write line activities to print out the content of these two variables. The first one is to print out the content. The second one is to print out the status. The sequence is ready now. I have everything I need to communicate with ChatGPT. Let's execute the code to check what happens. The execution is finished. Let's check the result. As you see, I got the answer from ChatGPT in form of JSON string. This string contains different information. The answer for the question is also inside this string. It's under choices, and then text. I will show you in a moment how to get only the answer from this string. We also have here the status 200, which indicates that everything is okay. So, the request is successfully executed. Let's now see how to get only the answer for the question from this JSON string. For that I will first create a new variable of type JSON object. I will use this variable to store the JSON string of the response. It should be also of type JSON object. I don't need to declare this variable, as I did for the other JSON variable. The JSON I have as response is of type string, therefore I have to parse this string to JSON, so that I can store it in this new variable. I can do that as following. Inside assign activity I will use the parse function in this way. Now the variable contains the response, but now of type JSON object, not as a string. In this way I can easily read the information from the JSON object. I will create a new variable for the answer. It's of type string. I will store only the answer in this variable. I can do that as following. I used here the JSON object, which contains the response. After that I used choices. Then the number 0, to get the first item under choices. After that I used text, where I have the answer. At the end I am converting the output to string. In this way I will get only the answer from the response. And it will be stored in this variable, answer. I will use message box activity, to display the answer I will read from the JSON response. I don't need these two activities anymore, therefore I will delete them. Now the sequence is ready to get only the answer for the question. Let's execute the code again and check the result. As you see, I got only the answer for the question. The capital of India is New Delhi. This is how to communicate with ChatGPT and UiPath to get answers for your questions. You can use this sequence as a workflow with input and output arguments to use it in the project and get answers for your questions. You may ask yourself now, why should I use this sequence to get answers for my questions? I could directly use ChatGPT without using such workflows. The answer is, the main reason for this video is to show you how to communicate with ChatGPT and UiPath. And this was only an example to show you how to create an HTTP request in UiPath to get data from ChatGPT. In the next videos I will show you some use cases, how to use API to do advanced things in UiPath. One of the use cases will be the following. I am getting emails from different customers. The emails are always different, they contain different content and have another structure. In the email there is a request to get some information, what I have in a database. The request is not a SQL query, but only a text, for example. Can you please give me the price of the product X? I will implement a use case to do the following. Read the emails and understand the request. Convert the request into a SQL query, to fetch the data from the database. Send the data to the customer. This will be a very good use case, what we can use in some projects to get benefit of ChatGPT API. If you want to see this video, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe. If you also have any other ideas, where we can use the API, please write it in a comment. If you still have any questions, please let me know. Thanks for watching and have a good day.